I'm sure. You know, spent a lot of time whenever I was in the service watching my wife look closely I was part of 7th MAB and Max 7, and she was always known that if my 782 gear was gone from the front door, somebody might call her later, and we always had those worries. I understand the price of our surviving military family and community have to pay. It's a debt that Phil Rowe up here used to say could never be fully repaid, which is why I want to thank each of you for having the courage to join us here today. Just 1% of Americans raise their right hand and serve in our military, which means that less than 1% of American families will endure the pain that comes with the loss of their service member or veteran who they loved. We must ensure that our survivor community has access to the support, benefits, health care that their service member or veteran has earned, period. Whether it's a training accident, combat deployment, mental health struggles, or a disability as a result of the veteran's military service, it is the spouse and children who bear the brunt of these life-altering events. When a veteran is disabled because of their service, it is their spouses and children who have to support them. And when a veteran is totally disabled because of their service, it is their family members who typically serve as their primary caregivers. Military and veteran spouses often put their careers on hold to care for their loved one who bears the scars of their service. And when their veteran loved one passes away, surviving families often depend on VA pension or compensation to make ends meet. It is in that fog of grief that the survivors need to know that VA has their back. On January 5th, the Secretary stated that every day VA will serve veterans' families, caregivers, and survivors every bit as well as the veterans who served this nation. I don't doubt the Secretary's word. However, in multiple conversations with committee staff, VA employees described survivors' issues as less of a priority for the department than veterans' issues more broadly. Even the suggestion that that could be the case is unsettling. Too often, we hear the survivors are unaware of the benefits available to them or how to apply. The information on VA's website can be out of date for certain education benefits for survivors, but not for other benefits. We must ensure that VA is treating all education benefits equally. And let's say a surviving spouse or child does file a claim after wading through the confusing forms and conflicting information, then the VA often takes years to process their claim, whether it be for compensation, pension, or education benefits. Even a surviving child's simplest claim form, the DIC benefit, can take months to process. Further, in the CHAMP VA program, we have heard of outdated paper claim filing process, payments delays, and denials of health care services without explanation. And we've heard of VA vet centers turning away survivors seeking bereavement services and mental health support. These issues have real-life consequences for the families of those who have served. In 2008, Congress established VA's Office of Survivors Assistance to serve as a principal advisor to the Secretary on all policies and programs affecting the veteran survivors community. But under the Biden administration, this office was moved out of the Secretary's office and banished to the Veterans Benefits Administration within the Pension and Fiduciary Services. But the pension and fiduciary services don't even cover all the survivors' benefits. Further, it has been easier for many survivors to receive DIC under the PACT Act, and I trust that 3 full-time employees within the Office of Survivors Assistance aren't able to handle the influx of questions and casework associated with these new authorities. Further, the Office of Survivor Assistance no longer even meets regularly with the VA Secretary's office. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable to me, and it should be unacceptable to all of us. And I look forward to hearing from Mr. Jacobs' response to my questions on it today. Furthermore, For the hearing, I specifically identified Deputy Secretary Tanya Bratcher, to be VA's lead witness. Deputy Secretary Bratcher should have been capable of answering the VA's what I see as a shortcoming in helping survivors. She could also directly answer why the Office of Survivors Assistance has been drastically deprioritized, and some would simply say ignored, by the Office of the Secretary. Now, I'm pleased that Undersecretary Jacobs is here, but in the future, I hope VA would send a witness that we had requested, and instead of substituting their judgment for mine. I'm proud co-sponsor of Representative Siscamonte's bill, the Prioritizing Veteran Survivors Act. This bill would rightfully return the Office of Survivor Assistance back to the Office of Secretary. This would ensure that all survivors' programs, policies always have a seat at the table and an advocate on their side at the VA. Now, finally, before we turn over to Ranking Member for his opening remarks, I'd like to take a moment, if we could, a moment of silence. Kim Ruocco, who tragically passed away on January 21st. Kim was a surviving spouse of Marine Corps veteran John Ruocco and a vice president of suicide prevention and postvention at the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. Kim was dedicated and an advocate for the entire survivors community. Kim passing is a great loss to them and us and to the entire military and veteran family community. With that, I'd like to take a moment of silence if we can, please.